panelists. Who would like to share what it is like, or what it was like, to grow up in our community as a Jew of color? Who would like to answer? Don't be shy.
I can answer first.
Okay.
What I would say for me growing up, especially since I'm still growing up in the communities, being Jew of color, it's been a challenge. It's almost challenging for me because it's hard for me to find where I belong, and it's very hard for me to find a synagogue where people can accept me for who I am and actually see me as a Jew, and not mistaking me as someone who just works there or just a visitor, just to feel as though I'm just like everyone else. It's always been a little bit difficult, especially when I went to private school when I was a kid, and I was the only Jew of color there. So I dealt with a lot of traumatic issues there too, being just the only Jew of color there too. And it's comforting that I have a synagogue that there's so many different, variations of Jews there, and I definitely feel like one where I'm at now. But it has been a long journey in finding a synagogue that, when I walk in, I don't get a million questions on who I am and how I am Jewish. So.
I also like to say, first of all, my name is Joel Respes, Ben Harav Havel, Zichron Livracha, the founder of Adabet Moshe. First experience of being prejudiced or discriminated against came in Philadelphia, and it was from the Afro-American community. Being a Jew, growing up in the Black community, you were discriminated against. Ridiculed, saying you were practicing a religion that wasn't your own. You were following a white man's religion. And then subsequent to that, my father founded Adabet Moshe, and we moved from Philadelphia to South Jersey. It took him 3 tries to find property that the surrounding community wasn't discriminatory against us. And it was a hard journey. It was tough to be discriminated against Afro-Americans, to be discriminated against non-Jewish people. And then, as my granddaughter just said, to go into a synagogue or shul and being questioned, how you get to be this, how you get to be that. Growing up, it was, oh, you must be the Falashim, you must be Ethiopian Jew, or you are a convert, not stating or accepting you as being a Jew that was born a Jew. And you can have Jews that come in from Eastern Europe who just say they're Jew, they're never questioned. So that is challenging. Anyone else?
Does anyone else share that experience? Go ahead, Amitai.
Thank you, Lauren. With me, I'm new to the tribe, but I've been a part of the tribe for the last 12 years. I've been walking through Bethel. It's hard for me when I converted over, because when I tell my friends and people that I'm close to, I want to be Jewish, I'm making a step to be Jewish, a lot of people turn their back on you. And it's hard because when it's family members or close friends, and when they call you like the black sheep, or you in the wrong place, or it hurts. But when you have like my clergy, like my friends, like my family, like the people I know at my synagogue, Congregation Bethel, who have my back in every little step I do, it's a wonderful thing. Even when this panel together, I see my role models, I see somebody I call my close friend, my sister, like everybody here, it's a beautiful thing to have this moment.
It is. I completely agree with you. And I too can identify with being questioned for why and how I could ever turn my back on Jesus Christ. That was definitely something I needed to explain. And I still explain sometimes to family. It's hard for people to adapt when we we change our lives, I think. But it has definitely been a struggle. Has anyone else felt that pull of being a person of color and being a Jew? Felt like they were in the middle or they were part of two different communities? Rabbi Gamliel, did you want to say something?
I guess this my answer would tie into your first question. I am Rabbi Gamliel Respis. I'm Brother Joel and the son of Rabbi Abraham Respis, Zikron Lebracha. And Joel, told you some of the history of our family. It's as for me, it's a little, I have a different experience. It's for whatever reason, because in where we settled, although there was prejudice, but it wasn't coming from the Jewish community. It was coming we're talking about the early 60s. So it was United States in the early 60s, okay? So, but that being said, we were the Jews. In our area, we were the Jews because there were no other Jews in our area. So that's the way I grew up. I was a Jew. The color of my skin didn't matter, and society would, remind you of your color of your skin, but that didn't influence how I felt about myself. I was a Jew. The color of the skin is nothing, so and in answering to your question that you're saying now, was I ever caught in the middle? Me personally, no, because I identify as a Jew. I remember and it's kind of funny because we kind of grew up kind of special because we were unique. My father was unique. And therefore, people wanted to know about him, about us, and about his organization, our congregation. And he was interviewed numerous of times. So to me, that kind of made it special. I remember one of those times being asked, well, if you weren't a Jew, what would you be? I told him flat out, I would be nothing. Judaism, being a Jew, that's what runs through my blood. The color of my skin does not matter. I am a Jew. I am a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I don't really care what color they were. They were Jewish. They served Hashem. So me personally, I never felt caught in the middle because I'm a Jew and I identify through and through as a Jew. So me personally, I've never been caught in the middle.
I'm glad. I'm really glad, Rabbi Gamliel, that you have had that experience. Has anyone else had a different, ideally, Rabbi Gamliel, we would all aspire to reach that point where all people are viewed as Jews. David, did you want to share something?
Sure. So I've definitely been caught in the middle. I'm a convert. I converted to Orthodox Judaism, going to yeshiva in Muncie, New York. So I've definitely had a few experiences. Me, I'm a little different. I have no problem with being Black and Jewish. I identify as both because I see the greatness in both. So I have been caught in the middle, walking around, yeshiva and hearing people say, oh, this Schwartza is around the corner doing this kind of stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I can't really go off on this dude because it's like, okay, I got to remember the halakha, you can't embarrass a Jew, this and the third, but it's like the Black man in me wants to not lash out, but wants to say something. And most times I do say things like, hey, you shouldn't say that, yada, yada, yada. And the people be like, well, why are you worried about it? You're a Yid, you're a Jew. It's like, I'm also Black too. And I have family that are African Americans who are not Jews. So when you say, oh, all Black people are this, it's like, that's not true. Next time we go on break, come home with me and I'll take you to where Black people don't act like that, you know. So I've definitely been caught in the middle, had to constantly not only defend myself, but to defend my people. You know, when I converted, I didn't turn my back on my people. I didn't say, oh, now I'm Jewish, I don't want nothing to do with Black people. No, it was, I'm Jewish, but y'all still my family. Whether I know you or not, I still identify with you. Now, when y'all have cookouts, am I going to come? Sure. Am I going to eat the food? No. You know what I mean? Am I going to dress a certain way? Am I going to come there with, you know, my suit and my hat? Probably. But I'm still coming around because y'all still my family.
Right.
So.
Yes, well, I experienced that also, David, with my family growing up, being around family members that were non-Jewish, you know, not eating this, not eating that. You know, we as Jews, we observe, we have different minhag than they do. We practice differently. They're Christians. We're Jewish. So it's understandable. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it wasn't difficult. And I have to agree with you. You are caught in the middle because you always have to, not always, but majority of the time, a lot of the time, you have to defend yourself. Who are you? Why are you? Where did you come from? Whereas, as I stated, a Caucasian Jew can come into a synagogue or come and just say, hey, I'm a Jew. No questions asked. As I said earlier, the discrimination when we first moved to New Jersey did not come from the Jewish community. It came from non-Jews. I think your question was, how do we feel about growing up in the area we grew up? Whether it was discriminated against Black Americans, non-Jew, white Jews, I'm sorry, Jews, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Whether we discriminate against Black Americans, people of a different racial orientation, be they Jewish or non-Jewish, that happens. Okay, we cannot discount that fact. I mean, we're living in America, it is a fact. So when someone, I know I'm feel good within myself who I am. I'm proud of being a Jew of color. When someone sees me, okay, are they looking at me as a Jew, whether it be Jewish or not? Are they looking at me as a Jew, if you're a Jew, or are you looking at me as just being a Black person who professes to be a Jew? Okay, there's a difference, if you understand what I'm saying. If you're looking at me as a Jew, like Amitai said, okay, he's accepted in the Bethel community. I've been to a lot of synagogues. I've been to a lot of shuls. No questions asked. I've been to some shuls. Oh, how you get to be Jewish? Is your mother Jewish? Why does that always have to come into place? I've been to Bethel as recent as last year. I was asked. I've been going there. My son is a member of Bethel. Well, how do you get to be that? And I've been going there. I mean, why am I still asked? Whereas some Jews are coming there that I know from Eastern European background have no idea of what they're doing, can't speak any Hebrew or anything, they get a free pass. So when will this stop? I mean, we have to be accepting of all Jews, whatever color we are, whatever our national background is, ethnicity, we are all Jews.
That's very well said. Yoel, couple of housekeeping notes that I've been asked to share with you. One is if you have questions, to please put them in the Q&A. The chat is for chatting, but the Q&A is being curated by a member of our staff, and they're going to go through the questions, and those we'll have a Q&A session at the end of our talk. But another housekeeping item is this means me too in American Sign Language. So if you see me doing that, that means I agree or me too. So I'm just also letting you, letting people know if you see me doing this, it's because I don't want to interrupt you, because what people are saying is very important. Before I ask my next question, I wanted to just make sure that there wasn't anyone else that wanted to chime in about feeling like they were put in the middle of being Black or a Jew of color and a Jew, or a person of color and a Jew. Yael, did you want to say something? Mrs.
We
Yael
only
Farr?
have 2 minutes. We only have 2 minutes and we have lots of questions. So I think everyone answered very well. They answered.
Okay.
So I'll wait for the next question.
Fair enough. I just want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. I'm a passionate advocate for individuals with disabilities, but I'm also a passionate advocate to make sure that every voice, Cole, is heard. So if you ever want to say something, please just, any of the panelists, please chime in. So while we're talking about being questioned, I'm going to take a second to go over something called microaggressions. On our panel, is there anyone, please raise your hand if you have heard the term microaggressions before. It's a fancy term, and it's something that we all experience. I will define microaggressions, and then I will give some examples. Microaggressions are subtle actions that are demeaning and hurtful. Most people have no idea that their question, comment, or behavior is microaggressive. Microaggressions can be saying, "You don't look Jewish," asking, "How are you Jewish?" or assuming that a person of color is a convert. Not that there's anything wrong with being a convert. And I know Yoel has spoken about being made to feel like he has to justify being in a congregation or being in a Jewish space. I myself can also identify with that. Would anyone on the panel like to share their experience with these microaggressions and this microaggressive behavior? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yael?
Hi, everybody. My name is Yael Farr. I live in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, with my husband and 2 children. My Abba is Yoel. My uncle is Rav Gamliel. And I am the granddaughter to the late Rabbi Abel Respez. Zichrono Livracha. So there have been many times that I have been asked if I was either the help or a babysitter, or if I was lost. No, I'm not lost. And I would just play it off because I know who I am and I'm strong within myself to know that I am a multicultural woman. And you know what? I guess in society, I have a lot of strikes against me. I'm a woman. I'm a person of color, and I'm a Jew. So being the first in USY, the United Synagogue Youth, in our generation, it was challenging. You know, I would get the looks. What are you doing here? Who is she? Who is that? It's a new kid. Thank you to Linda Culp, who helped my family, helped me so much with my brothers and allowing us to feel so comfortable being with our other youth. But it was difficult then. And then as I got older, it was just everywhere you turned, you know. Oh, you know, can you tell me where we sit? Or do I hang my coat here? Or are you the babysitter? There was one time that I attended a shul and I started reading and I was asked, how did I know Hebrew? And I gave the answer that I was taught Hebrew. As I got older, the question of how are you Jewish was hurtful, but then I would turn around and ask the same question. Well, you go first. You tell me how you're Jewish, because we're both Jews. Why am I being asked the question? But I'm being asked the question. So how about I ask you of your background? So yeah, I have definitely experienced, you know, if I was, you know, just uncomfortable situations, but at the same time, I have learned to just be strong. And my father, my mother, my family, my grandfather, they really set the foundation for us. And, you know, I am so proud of who I am. I know one of the questions are going to be, and I'm already jumping ahead, I'm so sorry. But,
go for it.
Listen, I do not struggle with who I am. That's one of the questions. I do not struggle. What I struggle with is people not understanding. What I struggle with is being closed-minded. What I struggle with is some of us, we are kind of caught in the middle. My husband's law enforcement, so yeah. With everything going around today, I just kind of went into a dark hole because I even said to my rabbi, where do I belong? Just like my daughter said, you know, it just kind of came to a head where I felt like, where do we belong? But I know that, you know, when I walk into the stroll, I'm there to pray. I'm there to worship. Okay. And I want to feel comfortable when I walk into the Beit Knesset. I want to feel comfortable when I walk into the synagogue. I want to feel like it's my family. I'm past the 2 minutes. I'm sorry, but yeah. I can go on and on, but
I just want to piggyback on what you're saying, that when you go into a shul, you want to feel comfortable. You don't want to get the looks, the stares, you know, 1,000 questions, or like you say, are you the help? Or, you know, what are you doing here? I mean, this is 2020. These questions have been going on for years, since the early 60s with my older siblings. And it became difficult, and it was hard for them, you know, to integrate, if I can use that term, into the overall Jewish community, because after a while it becomes tiresome. You either get tired of it, you don't want to ostracize yourself, but you become like, you know what, I'm not going to be involved with this because it's just too much. Why should I have to be questioned every time I go to a shul? The questions: is your mother Jewish? How do you get to be Jewish? How do you learn Hebrew? I mean, you see other people coming in that are new members, that are just visitors. They aren't questioned that way. So why should a Jew of color be questioned that way? Why? Why should we be made to feel that we're less than, that you're not a part of?
if people would just read history, if we would just read, okay, there are colorful Jews around the world.
Yes.
Read the history.
I have a question about the you don't look Jewish, or you don't fit a mindset or a thought process of what a Jew is supposed to look like. There's a term for that, and that is called Ashkenormity. So even though the first Jews to come to our country were Sephardi Jews, it seems as though in our society there is a stereotype of what an American Jew looks like. And that person is from Eastern Europe. And when we don't fit that mold or that philosophy, we then don't fit the mindset. I know people who have blonde hair and blue eyes who are Jews by birth who are asked, how are you Jewish? And that's because of Ashkenormity, another term. What can people do? People are curious. We're curious people by nature. So how can people satisfy their curiosity without coming across as hurtful?
I think, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, David.
So I think one of the issues is studying. Studying needs to be done. I understand that most of Judaism, or how we view it, is Ashkenazi, black suit, black hat, you know, but I think history will help. Like, again, the minhag that I follow is Taimani, is Yemenite minhag. So on Shabbat, I do not go out dressed as your, you know, regular Jew in the suit and the hat. I go out with a robe. You know, I dress like that. like Yemenites would in Yemen. And so I do get looks. I've never gotten asked if I was the help or anything like that. I have gotten looks in Philadelphia, in Muncie, things like that. Usually people have just, come and ask me, like, hey, how are you? I've never, nobody really asked me how you're Jewish. They probably assume that I'm a convert, which I am. I have no problem with that. But I think the thing is just studying. Once people study and learn that Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov wasn't wearing black suits. You know what I mean? They didn't come from Europe. Research those places where they came from, how they dressed, how they looked, and go off of that. Seeing the Jews in North Africa and places like this. So I think studying history is a major factor.
So while we're on that vein, Yael, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
While we're on that vein, we're talking about history and information. I would be remiss if I did not, while we have a rabbi in our midst, ask about, I know that there is something in halakha that says something about how we're not supposed to question someone's Jewishness. We're not supposed to, I know David had alluded to it earlier, how we're not supposed to make another Jew look bad. Can we talk a little bit about that, please? Would
Sure,
you feel comfortable?
It is in the Gemara. I'm not sure exactly where the quote is, but I believe it's taken off of the way Amocha. I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
It's Bava Metzia.
Okay, so David knows the exact source, but no, we are not to embarrass another Jew. It kind of comes from also, Lashon Hara. So one of the things the rabbis taught that to embarrass a Jew was worse than committing murder.
Wow.
That is the level of embarrassing in public, the way the rabbis felt about honoring and having respect for your fellow Jew. So no, it is definitely, against halakha to ask that question. So I don't know how much more you want me to elaborate on that. But, you asked the question, I think if someone generally wants to know about you, there's a way. I mean, tell me about yourself. There's a way that if you want to know about the person, that, if you feel like sharing, you'll go ahead and share. You can kind of tell body language, the tone of voice, kind of can tell where the person is coming from. So that's kind of how I judge my reaction to people. I'm trying to get a feel as to where they're coming from. Unfortunately, not everyone, and I really agree with David on this, that one of the issues in America, in the Jewish community, and I can only speak for America, is that the education is sorely lacking. And the education is more it's definitely, Judaism today has the face of Ashkenormative.
Mhm.
And even that, even the Sephardic Jews and the history and the literature is kind of looked through the lens of today in American Jewry through Ashkenormative lenses. So it is.
Rabbi Gamliel, you're cutting out, unfortunately, sir. I'm going to segue over to see if Miss Ivana has anything she would like to share, because I saw her nodding her head, and Rabbi, we'll come back to you so you can finish. Is that all right? Ivana, did you want to share something? I know you are passionate about education.
Yes. I have to say the fact that I, just graduated from high school, when we learn about Judaism, it is completely what she said about Ashkenazi. There's no history about Jews of color at all. And since everyone at school basically either thinks that I'm either Muslim or that I am Jewish, they always turn to me and they're like, well, what's this and what's that? And it's just, I'm tired of always having to be the teacher when there's a teacher in the classroom. I feel as though like I shouldn't always have to explain myself. And I used to say, like, when people would constantly ask me, like, how are you Jewish? I wouldn't mind because I take pride in, who I am and I love it. But now I kind of feel like I shouldn't have to be quizzed, like, did you have your bar mitzvah? How was your bar mitzvah? Did you read from the Torah? What did you do at your bar mitzvah? And those people that ask me those questions, they didn't even have a bar mitzvah themselves. So it's just like, unnecessary quizzes that I have to take. I'll share one of my experiences when I went to JCDS. As a kid, I went to Jewish private school. And when I was sitting at lunch after Bir Hamazon, the entire lunchroom pointed at me and they said, peanut butter skin, and not a single teacher, not one of my friends helped me. I came home crying, but now I kind of laugh at it because I'm like, I love my peanut butter skin. But those are one of the things. And when I grew up in high school and with my peers, a lot of them say, like, I never even knew that there was Jews of color. And that's a matter of because I don't see any teachers teaching it. And it really shouldn't be us people of color constantly having to teach everyone things that they can find out on their own or that should be instilled in the curriculum. And as well as some teachers, they feel uncomfortable to talk about just African-American history, and just a matter of having they just feel uncomfortable because they don't know how to maybe answer the question correctly, or they don't want to step on toes. I'm not sure, but that's really where it needs to start, is having more conversation in class, especially, through history class when we're talking about religions and not just talking about, oh, there's Jews from, Europe and then the Holocaust. That's it. You just talk about the Holocaust and really the concept is Judaism. But then they say, oh, well, there's also Ethiopian Jews. And then again, like there I am in the same position where it's like, no, I'm not Ethiopian. I have no trace of Ethiopian, but in me either.
And we're not Black Hebrew Israelites. We're not part of a
neither is that.
radical.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And then I had to get
I agree.
questioned on that too, is like, are you a Israelite? And then I work at Bethel as well. And a lot of times, even when I'm working there, it's almost like I'm expected to either work on the Sabbath or like the kind of respect that other Jews have there that aren't of color when they ask to, have certain, privileges of being a Jew, as such as taking off, or leaving early because I need to get home to light the candles. It was a struggle for me at first because, they looked at me like, you said you were available on Fridays. And I thought, well, I thought you guys, I didn't think anyone would be working past this, like, on the Shabbat, because
but the ECC is there till 6.
Right.
And in the wintertime, that's after sundown.
Right. And I had to struggle with that. And I had to even go to Rabbi Marshall just to have some support on that. Like, hey, I didn't mean to say I was available the whole day through Friday. I just assumed that, being Jewish, you guys wouldn't be working past, the sun going down. But that was one of the issues too. And, always, even when I'm there on the Sabbath, just constantly ask questions like, where do I hang my coat up at? And, just being looked at as a help all the time.
Yoel, did you want to share something?
Sorry, me, or did you say Yael or Yoel?
Sorry, Yoel, it sounded like your father was trying to say something, Yael. He might be frozen. It looks like he's frozen. Yoel, I'll circle back to you. Oh, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what David said and my brother said. Education is the most important thing. Educate ourselves. Most, not only Ashkenazi Jews, but people of America are only accustomed or familiar with Ashkenazi Jews, and they are not familiar with Jews of color. Jews come in all hues from all over the world. I think we spoke about this the other day, and I don't know if you ever found the picture, but there are Jews from China, India, North
Right.
Africa, all the different countries in Africa, not only in Eastern Europe and Western Europe, not only in
South
the United
America.
States. So where does that education begin? You know, does it begin in the pulpit with the rabbis? Does it begin in Hebrew school? I'm not sure, but it has to begin with somewhere. So it's not like a culture shock. Oh my God, you're a Jew, and how did you get to be a Jew? I mean, come on, this is 2020.
That's
Okay.
fair. That's very fair. Go ahead, y'all.
And I'll piggyback off of that. So the other, oh gosh, I don't want to miss my point. The other thing is we're all speaking, you know, and saying, you know, education is key, and just, you know, just study, you know, just read. It really has to start with, it has to start in the home as
Amen.
well.
Amen.
Really has to start in the home. And I mean, systemic racism is real. It is alive. And anti-Semitism is a form of racism.
Absolutely.
And we get it both. We you know, some of us do, some of us don't. But it's almost like we're robots, you know, it's almost like it's accepted. And, you know, nobody says anything. It's, you know, the whispers and the gossip and, you know, who are they and are they, you know, it's almost as if it's accepted. And those of us who are in it, we're guilty because it's almost as if we allow it. We're tired though. We don't allow it. We're just tired. And so, you know, like my beautiful, intelligent daughter, Ivana, you spoke excellent, baby. Like she said, you know, it's like, at what point do we stop teaching? However, we have to teach. We have to inform. Some people just don't know because they didn't get it at home. Some people didn't get it at school. So someone has to do it. So I'm caught in the middle. I'm caught in the middle with, because yes, it's like, it's exhausting. It's tiring when everything happened a couple of weeks ago. You know what we went through, Lauren. I mean,
Talk about it.
I couldn't speak for a week. And
Same
then,
here.
I mean, then again, I was flooding Facebook with everything.
I couldn't stop crying for a week. I'm going there. I legitimately could not form just a thought. And every time I tried, I cried.
But at the same time, and you know, because I remember my dad, he said, Yael, you know, I took a break off Facebook, and he said, don't stay there, get back up. And you know, my dad, you know, went against Caesars, you know, for being discriminated against. You know, my grandfather, you know, had bottles thrown at the garage, right, Uncle G and Abba?
Oh, wow.
No, it was actually, they was shot. We were shot at in the house.
Shot at the house, the garage. Okay. So I could not stay down. I had to get up because of where I come from. Okay. Because of who I represent and what runs deep in my bones, but still, it still gets tiring. But we still have to be teachers, and but what we're asking is that people not only try to understand, but really just listen. And we have to retrain our brain, okay? We have to retrain our brain. Sheila Klein, I never knew there were Black Jewish people. Exactly. I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you out there, but I'm happy that you said that. I'm happy that you're being honest. Okay,
Sure.
so this is why we need education, Sheila. This is why, and this is why we have to read, we have to be open, and you know, just embrace each other and love one another. Go ahead, Amitai.
It's all right. Amitai, you have your hand up.
Yes. I'm gonna answer the question, and what Sister just said. I remember first time ever seeing Chaim Respis. I was walking the hallways, and he walked past me, and I was like, who is that? Like, I never saw a Jew of color, and I followed behind him because I thought he was doing something he was supposed to be in the building. And then he walked into a class, and I walked behind, and I looked. I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "Yeah, I'm hiring. Who are you?" I said, "I'm Marlon." I said, "You a teacher? You work here?"
He's like, "Yep, I'm about to teach this class."
And for that whole day, like I was telling a friend, like, "Yo, I just saw I hate to say it like this, a black Jewish guy." He was saying, "Where?" I said, "Son, over there in that class." Like, we were so amazed. Like, and I remember my first words I ever asked him, I said, "Was you born Jewish?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm Jewish. My dad's Jewish. My sister's Jewish." And it caught my amazement of me just talking to him, meeting his sister, meeting his mom, meeting his dad, meeting his kids, meeting his wife. And it opened up me, like, teaching myself of that history. Because if you don't teach yourself of that history, you're blind. I was
Beautiful.
blind for,
Beautiful.
wow. Like,
Beautiful.
I'm going to say
Well said.
my family taught me of Jewish people, and they never taught me was a colored Jewish person. Never. But when I saw it for the first
Well,
time,
except for Sammy Davis Jr.
I didn't even know Sammy Davis Jr. was Jewish.
Well, yeah. That's the only connection they had with Jews of color was Sammy Davis Jr. But you know what's funny? I want to piggyback on that, if I can use that term. When Chaim, Amitai was talking about Chaim, that's my oldest son. It was funny when he went to the overall Ashkenazi Jewish community and he saw Jews, white Jews. He was like, "Well, who are you? How do you get to be Jewish?" So he was questioning them, not verbally, but in his mind, he's like, "Dad, who are these people? How do they get to be Jewish?" So he was not aware that they were Ashkenazi Jews. So it's all about educating ourselves.
Sure.
And if we don't educate
Ethiopians would like
ourselves,
that
I
too.
don't care who you are, then you're not going to be enlightened to the world. And we keep being uneducated, then discrimination and prejudice will continue and harbor itself into God knows what.
That's well said.
And we should know better as Jews. We should
Yes.
know better.
Yes.
We should know better. We should do better. There is no way in hell, excuse my French, there is no way in hell that Jews should have any racist, discriminatory, nothing. We should not have anything, any hate, nothing of that sort in our body. We were once strangers in a strange land. We should know better. Now, this can be saved for another day, but we do have to talk about the relations among the African American community and the Jewish community, because that is a huge gap. There's a problem. There is a problem, and we should not skirt around it. I am disgusted. I'm just gonna go there. I am disgusted by the comments that I have seen in our community by some, not all.
Yeah, someone
because
put that in the question and answer about it.
There are so many who are standing in unison and solidarity, okay? And I see you, I thank you, and you know who you are. But you also know who you are, who have said some really, really hurtful things, okay, since the death of George Floyd, since all of the protesting has begun. And it was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe it. And it was like, you know, oh, well, so should we protest now? You know, it was almost like,
Yeah,
wait,
should
what
we
are
bring
we
a
talking
kugel?
about here? I'm sorry?
All right. Someone said, should we bring a kugel? A white Jewish woman posted on Facebook that she wanted to know, what are we doing in the Jewish community to support the African American community? And someone was just really, really mean to her and said, "Oh, what should we do? Send a kugel?" And it was like, wow. I get it. Facebook is having issues with stifling people's free speech. But and I know Facebook's going through that right now, but that was hard to read, and I just kept scrolling, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are taking a break from social media. But we have a lot of questions. I want to thank everyone for sharing their experiences and for speaking from their hearts. And I am going to turn it over to Sabrina so she can ask questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank everyone.
You guys have really shed a whole new light onto us, and I can only tell you that the chat box and the questions are exploding. We're not going to have time to get to all of them, but let me see if I can ask you guys some of the ones. I must tell you that many people really jumped on the education component piece and really would like to know, what do you suggest that we could do, or how are you advocating to make sure that this is getting into our Jewish day schools, our Hebrew schools, our religious schools, that where are we starting with our educational process? So if any of you.
So I think the first thing, again, that we need to do is to study history. I myself, I'm not a master or a scholar in it, but I've studied and I know the history of African Jews from the times of the Torah, going down to the times of the Mishnah and the Gemara. And so these things need to be explained. We need to have more Jewish books that have different cultures in it. You know, we need to have, Jewish books that shows Portuguese Jews, Spanish Jews,
Yes.
Mexican Jews, Chinese Jews, African Jews, all kinds of Jews, and not just Jews that, like we said, look Ashkenazi. Even in my community, I don't see any books that display Yemenite Jews. Well, there's one book. I saw one book in Muncie, but other than that, I don't see any books that display Jews from Yemen, Jews from North Africa, Jews from West Africa. I don't see it. All I see is your regular, Borough Park looking Jews in books.
I agree. I have to say,
agree.
I'm a congregate at Mikveh Israel, Congregation Mikveh Israel in Philadelphia. And there are Jews of all backgrounds there. One of the reasons that I feel like I'm family there. And one of my family friends, she was a teacher, Ella. And she's a Filipino Jew, African-American Jew, Filipino Jew. She's Sephardic. So I think that maybe hiring also more Jews of color and welcoming them and reaching out to Jews and just making Jews of color feel welcome. There's so many out there that they don't come out. They don't come out and they don't, some are maybe don't know. Some also don't know. They may be, confused or maybe don't have the information or the resources. USY, listen, I love USY. I'm not going to bash USY. I'm not going to bash any of the youth groups because I think it's great that our youth have it, but why are we not marketing and why are we not recruiting Jews of color? Why do we not have more diversity in our youth groups? Or why is there a separation of the youth groups? Don't get me started on that. But I agree. Just educating and just really the curriculum has to change. It has to change in regular schooling, secular schooling, and it has to change in Judaic schooling. It has to change.
Yes, piggybacking on what David said and what my daughter said, that education is the key point. And I think that the teachers, if you could bring in teachers that are Jews of color to educate the younger generation, to let them see that they are Jews of color, not just Ashkenazi Jews. And another thing that I think someone alluded to it earlier, the Sephardi Jewish community is kind of shadowed or left behind the Ashkenazi community. How many Jews ever speak of the Spanish Inquisition? That's just like glossing I mean, that was an atrocity that happened in our history. But we hear a lot about the Holocaust, which was a terrible tragedy, but nothing is ever said of the Spanish Inquisition. So that's something that also has to be taught. The atrocities that happened to Jews of color that came to America, that's never talked about. So these things also have to be brought to light, and education is the foundation.
Great,
I
thank
think
you.
that, and along with the education, and I think that it really needs to be shown, and when you teach Jewish history, how Jews specifically got from the Middle East to the different areas and how they got to Europe. Understand how they got to Europe, not how Judaism began in Europe. Let's teach
Right.
how Jews got there.
That
how,
is so
how much,
important.
okay, so we had these centers of learning in Europe, but they weren't always there. Where were the Jews before them, and how did they get to Europe? And how really did we become Jewish as Europeans? Teach
Right.
that.
Well
That
said.
is what needs to be
Our
taught.
roots.
How did the Europeans become Jewish?
True. So a question that comes up in many different forms as well is, you know, since the beginning of the unfortunate circumstances, everyone keeps asking, what can we do to help? From our social justice committees to our folks on Facebook to everybody around just wants to know, what can we do in regards to the struggles against racism? So do you feel that Jews of color, do you guys have some insights on what we can do to be helpful?
For me, I think the thing is just to speak out against the injustices. You know, the Torah says, "Sedek, sedek, tirdof." You know, so even I had seen a couple of things on Facebook with a lot of people that I know in Crown Heights walking around with these signs that had that pasuk from the Torah on it. So I think, you know, if there's anybody who should understand the struggles of Black people, it would be Jews.
Yep.
You know, Jews will always, always, always oppress. So if it's anybody that we should be standing side by side with, it should be the Jews. So I think, you know, they do understand. At least that's what I believe. You know, they do understand. Even when you saw a lot of anti-Semitic attacks that were going on in New York, mainly like Crown Heights and Borough Park, Jews just being attacked because they're Jews. Same thing with us. We're being attacked just because of the color of our skin. You know what I mean? So I
Exactly.
think it's, you know, just standing in solidarity with us, understanding our struggle, because we literally like almost have the same struggles. So for me, that's what it is.
Ty, you were going to say something?
Yes. That was a great question. With me, I put a video post up on Facebook, and when I did it, it's two parts of the video. I was sitting in front of my house. This when the power went out in Jersey, and I was angry. And the reason why I was angry because on my way home, I see somebody like cursing out a person of color. And I was about to get on Facebook and go straight off. And I got in front of my house and I said, Shem, I'm sorry, forgive me, I have to say this. And for some reason, my phone went down, no internet, nothing. That day I got up, still angry. I pulled up in front of my shul and I told my story. And the reason why most people don't understand a story, because some people don't ask what you've been through as a young person, or what you've been through of a person of color, or what you've been through with a person of Jewish color. It's a lot of stories I told Lauren. I want to say last week I told you what happened when I was at the gas station. And that it made me see stuff different. With Joel, he told me something and it stayed with me every day. He said, Marlon, you're gonna have two things against you right now. And I looked at him like, what are you talking about? He said, one, you are a color man, and now you're a color man and you Jewish. And that stuck with me from the time he told me that to right now. And I think it's hard that when people see us, they don't ask the question. They're ready to see, what can we do to fix the problem? The question is like, what can we all do to fix the problem of hate, racism, everything that's out there? Because people are scared of what can happen. But I think people would be more scared if they see how everybody stand together as one.
Mhm.
Well said.
That-
Well said.
Very well said. And I'd just like to add, during the late 60s, during the civil rights movement, it seemed to be that the overall Jewish community was more willing to help the African American community. They marched with Martin Luther King. They were there on the front lines. And today it seems like, I don't want to get involved. It's not me, you know, with the immigrants coming in, with what's going on in social justice now. You don't see the overall Jewish community being at the forefront. Like you were saying, like I read some posts with some Jewish people that's so-called friends. I'm like, whoa, we're supposed to be as Jews against all discrimination, no matter who it is, no matter where it's coming from. That's who we are as Jews. But I'm looking at posts, I'm listening to people, I'm like, are you really a Jew? Or are you just a Jew in name only? So it starts with everybody. And you have to, as Michael Jackson said, look in the mirror at yourself. See who you are as a person. You know, reflect upon yourself, question yourself, be real.
These are amazing answers, and we are supposed to wrap up right now, but we have so many questions. I hope that you'll stay with us so we can stay on for a couple more minutes, and I hope our audience, if you'd like to still stay on, we're going to go on a little bit more just because the questions are so rich and amazing. So
Yay.
one that came in, and if you don't mind sticking with us a little bit longer. So we admittedly live in our own little sheltered worlds, and we create our little circles. And I don't think that people, one of the questions that came in is that in their dialogue and conversations, that their friends are really not even aware that racism still exists today. They think it's outdated, that maybe it's a little over-exaggerated, that it's really not happening as badly as everyone thinks it is. So the question is,
I'm sorry.
what would your suggestions be to help somebody understand the reality of racism and the continued complexity of it?
So I would say 2 words: anti-Semitism. It's the same thing, you know. So, for instance, the Jews have a uniform, right? You know, for me and where I'm at in Muncie and stuff like that, you know, the black hat, the Talit Katan, the black suit, whatever, that's a uniform. That automatically sets you out as a Jew. That sets you up to, you know, be attacked just by what you wear. So it's the same thing for us. My black skin for police and other people is a target. So for me, I would just tell people, look at anti-Semitism. Look at how somebody can just walk into a shul just because it's a synagogue with Jews and attack it. So my thing is, when people say that, I don't know, maybe they're not trying to think, maybe they're delusional or whatever, but it's like that. It still exists, and the Jews know it all too well.
Yes.
So was the question, was the person saying that racism is over exaggerated?
I think the person's in the is just in their own bubble with the people that they know from their community and from
Right.
their congregation and their friends and family. And it sounds like that person may not know people who are not of the same demographics as them. Is that fair to say, Sabrina?
Correct.
And I think that's common. I think a lot of people associate themselves with people who are like them. People want to feel a sense of welcome, and they want to feel a sense of home. But I think because of that, because they may not be associating themselves with people who don't look like them, that they may not understand or appreciate that racism is still alive and well in the United States in 2020. And
Oh, she
so
said
the
that.
question is how do we someone wants to learn, so how do they learn? Is that fair, Sabrina?
Correct.
Does that help, Yoel?
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, but I mean, racism is alive today. Go ahead, Yael.
So are we talking about the racism where, you know, we're being hung from trees and lynching, that kind of racism? Because I mean, systemic racism is something where my dad gets pulled over, racially profiled. You know, we have people getting pulled over for traffic ticket and you know, being killed because of the color of their skin. Listen, it doesn't have to be that, you know, oh, I can go to a restaurant today. You know, yeah, oh, you can go to a restaurant. Let's go have, you know, coffee and eat together. Yes, we can go to the restaurants and there's no segregation. However, you know, what we don't realize that there is still segregation. There's segregation within our communities, okay? There's segregation within our communities. It may not be so loud, but it's still there. You know, I'm taking a class at RCBC and it says, you know, I read that when you have a large population of African Americans or people of color that move into a community, white people move out. We're not, if you're not looking for it, like we wake up, and I say we as people of color, we just go on and we go about our day. But it's almost like a routine. Sometimes we have to put on a face. Sometimes we have to get ourselves ready and what we say, this is going to be a great day, just like everyone else. Have a good day. Hi, how are you? You know, we're just being ourselves. But there's always at some point in time, a comment or a situation. And it takes you back a little bit, but you gotta still keep going. You still put on the face, and some of my friends said, Yelly, oh, wow, I had no idea this happened to you. I mean, my daughter's called the N-word. I'm called the N-word. I was in Philadelphia at a protest a couple years ago, you know, for Israel, and we were called the N-word. We had the Jewish flag on our back, and we were called the N-word by one of our own, and unfortunately by other, I guess, pro-Palestine. It was ridiculous. I'm sorry that, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Lauren. I'm sorry that we have people that are still in a bubble. That's what it is. And they just do not want to see it. They don't want to be bothered with it. They're not saying, listen, I agree, but they're also not standing up to their friends and saying, hey, listen, you know what? I think this is going on. I think this happened today. There was some discrimination at work, and I think I should say something. No. People are not saying anything. And that's why we're here. People are not saying anything.
That's the problem. When you see injustice, something wrong, it is up to us, and it's incumbent upon us to speak up and speak against it. If you sit back, then you're part of the problem. You're not finding a solution to the problem. And for someone to say, well, there's no racism going on in today's society, then you're living in a bubble or you're living underneath the rock. You know, I can take off this kippah and say, well, I'm not Jewish. I can hide my Jewishness if I want to, but I can't take this off. a color of my skin. No, I don't care where I am. I am still going to be a man of color. I can, like I said, I can take this off and stop being a Jew momentarily if I feel uncomfortable. You know, I've had Jewish people tell me that, of the Ashkenazi faith, what do you call it? Race, I'm sorry. A rabbi told me that. So, but this can never come off. I've been discriminated against at my own workplace, okay? And for standing up for being who I am as a Black American, as a Black Jew, I was ostracized. Oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. So I am proud of who I am. I don't feel I'm better than a white person. Neither am I below you. We are on equal par. We were all created in the image of God. So let's understand that. Okay, I don't care if you're Jewish, Christian, Black, white, I don't care who you are. We are all God's children. So we have to accept that fact. And if you're thinking that racism is not alive, well, you need to educate yourself.
Quick
Right.
question. It's more of a question than anything else. So I've heard someone, we all know the expression never again as it relates to the Holocaust and the persecution
Right.
of Jews for being Jews. And I've seen it written, never is now. And it was said in relation to the anti-Semitism, but I think we can broaden it to include hatred, bigotry, and racism, just like we had JCRC had a presentation on the diseases of hate, and we can say never is now. Silence is agreement. Silence means you're being
Absolutely.
complicit in what is happening. So just as we want people to stand up for us, we need to stand up for others, because I am my brother's keeper.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
When I talked about that,
Absolutely.
Lauren.
Well said, Lauren. Well said.
Well said.
You have all spoken so well tonight, and I cannot tell you the love that you are feeling from our community. I can't keep up with the chat and the Q&A, but everyone has been so moved and so touched by your words, and they are extremely grateful. We are grateful that you have come forward to share your opinions and your ideas and your thoughts. For all of those that are still watching, please once again go to our website, jcrcsnj.org, for more resources. And we are going to be continuing these conversations, and we are going to have more opportunities. We'll be sending out a survey about the panel, as well as opportunities for us to know what you want to learn more about. So please email me at sspector@jfedsnj.org, which I'll put in the chat room right now. And anybody who would like to be involved, please email me. I can't thank you all enough for all that you have, for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Lauren, thank you for spearheading this and bringing us all together. And wishing you all a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
and thank you,
Thank
Sabrina.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Much.
you, Sabrina, Lauren, all the rest of the panelists. You guys have a great evening.
And thank you to the community. Thank you for everybody joining and having
Yes.
an open heart and allowing us to share our experiences with you. We do not have any type of hate. We come from a place of love, but moving forward, we need healing and we need solidarity.
Amen.
Absolutely. Well
Yes.
said, Yael.
Agreed.
Well said.
And
I
and
agree.
thank you, Sabrina, and to the JCRC for making this happen, and for
Yes,
allowing
thank
us the opportunity to come together as one community.
Toda Rabba.
Yes.
Kavod, kavod, kavod. Much love.